The beginning of the analysis. It's true many people reach middle age without achieving psychological maturity, and it is necessary for them to complete the earlier parts of the individualization process. It is also true that young people can encounter serious problems as they grow if they do not develop psychologically. This example is of an engineer, age 25, called Henry. The need to escape from his mother was expressed in hostile reactions to his real mother and a rejection to his inner mother, symbol of a feminine side of the unconscious. This would keep him trapped as a child, resisting the inner urge for growth. From the Jungian view, there is no rule for the length of time required for a successful analysis. It depends on the person's readiness to realize the inner facts presented by the unconscious. There always remains the conscious of how explosive, always remain conscious of how explosive the dreamer's symbols may be for him. If too bright, the dreamer could be driven into anxiety and led into rationalization as a defense mechanism, or no longer assimilate them and can fall into a severe psychic crisis. The initial dream. Dr. Jung gave great importance to the first dream. In the analysis, it is often has an anticipatory value. The decision to go into analysis is usually accompanied by an emotional upheaval that disturbs the deep psychic levels where archetypical symbols arise. The individualization process is often symbolized by a voyage of discovery to unknown lands. The first part of life journey is represented as climbing a mountain, offer, offers ascent from the unconscious to an elevated point of view of the ego or increased consciousness. Red usually is symbolic of a feeling of or passion. A mountain pass is a symbol for a situation of transition, which leads from old attitude of mind to a new one. Henry must go alone. It is essential for the ego to overcome tests unaided. The old woman is a symbol for wisdom and the eternal female nature. Henry hesitates to accept her help because it requires sacrifice of rational thought. The right brain is conscious, masculine, and left brain is unconscious, feminine. Blue often denotes a function of thinking. A voice is heard in the dream is the most meaningful occurrence. Dr. Jung identified the appearance of a voice in a dream with an intervention of the self. It stands for knowledge that has roots in the collective part of psyche. What the voice says cannot be disputed. After Henry reaches a place to accept a new direction to the right consciousness in the outer world, there he finds people he left waiting for him, and he can become conscious of the previously unknown aspects of his personality. In mythology, rain is often thought to be a love union between heaven and earth. There are conflicting opposites: conscious urge to ascend and tendency to passive contemplation. The fear of the unconscious is a problem encountered in Henry's initial dream, which shows up in others. He feared the world yet was attracted to it. Specifically, he feared marriage and its duties. Such is common for someone on the threshold of adulthood. This problem is most common with introverts, with the fear of reality in outer life. In alchemy, the prime material is often represented by monstrous creatures, mixed forms of animals. In psychological terms, which probably symbolize original total unconsciousness, of which the individual ego can rise to develop towards maturity. The man who fears communication of his subconscious is afraid of the feminine element in himself as much as of real women, longing to withdraw into passivity and introversion. Fear of an unsuccessful marriage, dreams of separation of the sexes are symptoms of the secret doubts. The saint and the prostitute. The idea of prostitutes and restricting a relationship with a woman to an animal-like sexuality, excluding all feelings, is often enticing to a young man. In such relationships, he can split his feelings and remain true to his mother and his psyche. Insecurity about his own sex is often observed in teens and is considered normal. The idea of the saint signifies the adoption of an aesthetic and holy life, denying the flesh. Transformation from prostitute to saint demonstrates that the transmutation of opposites can change into each other. Such transformations are common in dreams. Henry noticed the coat on the saint that gave an erotic spiritual quality, common to those who repress their sexuality and rely on reason, which often symbolizes the mask or persona, as called by Jung, that is presented to the world by a person. It has two purposes, which is similar to the sun sign in the zodiac. It makes a specific impression on other people and to conceal the inner self. In the first half of life, we should learn to accept our sexuality. How the analysis developed: Henry began to take interest in his inner world and seemed to be making great progress, and is shown in his later dreams and started to analyze them himself. Locomotives, probably a symbol of energy and dynamism, travel from the unconscious with its contents to light, where he can potentially use the contents to transform his life. Singing is an expression of feeling. A four equal side table represents completeness. In his dream, it ends that he must integrate his feelings side before he can achieve wholeness to relate to the woman within. The Oracle Dream. People who rely exclusively on rational thinking and dismiss or repress every manifestation of psychic life are inclined to superstition. They listen to oracles and prophecies and can be easily influenced by people who want to take advantage of them. The Chinese oracle book, the I Ching, the Book of Changes, is an ancient book of wisdom written around 3000 BC. It birthed two branches of Chinese philosophy, being Taoism and Confucianism, based on the hypothesis of oneness of man in the cosmos and yin and yang, female and male. What is the significance of fortune telling in our time? Consultation of an oracle is an experiment in the occult. They are synchronistic, so a certain event that appears random can be physically meaningful, and its meaning is often symbolically indicated through dreams that coincide with events. Dreams of transformations are rare and are more powerful than others. Such dreams, the dreamer seldom has more than a few personal associations. Mountains often symbolize a place of revelation, where transformation and change can take place. A city on a mountain is an archetypical symbol representing the seat of the self. If the dreamer is young or has a low spiritual development, the self is often symbolized by an object from their personal experience, usually something plain, which compensates the dreamer's high aspirations. Only in a mature person acquainted with the images of the soul is the self realized in a symbol that corresponds to its unique value. Arched gateways is a symbol of a threshold, a place where dangers lurk, a place that separates and unites. Every transformation demands the collapse of the old philosophy of life. Facing the irrational. Henry is comfortable analyzing his own dreams. Black beetles are color of darkness, depression, and death. Scarab beetles often appear golden. In Egypt, they were sacred, symbolizing the sun, but black is the opposite. Dreaming of destroying black beetles and their nests is a positive action because fire can symbolically lead to transformation and rebirth. Nine is a magic number, and in traditional symbolism of numbers represent the perfect form of the Trinity in its threefold elevation. The unlived life is an illness of which one can die. Henry had to realize that he needs more than reason to navigate life, and it is necessary to integrate the unconscious and uses symbols as a guide. The final dream. The evening is a time when the threshold of consciousness is lowered, and the impulses and image of the unconscious can pass across. The more is for some the archetypical image of a dark primal creature and personifies certain contents of the unconscious. This is perhaps reason why the Moor, or as it termed in this book, the Negro, is often rejected and feared by European people. Matches are stored in controlled fire, symbolizing qualities of warmth and love, feeling and passion found wherever humans exist. Henry was able to accelerate his maturation into a responsible and independent man. They represented initiation into reality and outer life, strengthening of the ego and his masculinity, and completion of his first half of the individualization process. The second half is the establishment of a right relationship between the ego and the self, lies ahead in the second half of his life. This was selected because it represents the autonomy of the unconscious process and shows the symbol creating power of the unconscious. It proves the self-regulating action of the psyche can support the development process of the soul. Conclusion: the science and the unconscious. The importance of the unconscious should be clear, and its application in waking life. We still do not have a complete understanding of the unconscious. Archetypes have huge impact on us, influencing emotions, ethical and mental outlooks, relationships with others, and our destiny. Arrangements of archetypical symbols can have healing effects. Archetypes can act as creative or destructive forces in our minds. Dreams must be interpreted individually as not to weaken the individual and cultural values of archetypical ideas and symbols. Always ask if mental phenomena is conscious or unconscious, and if a real outer phenomena is perceived by the conscious or unconscious means. The forces of the unconscious appear in clinical material, mythology, religion, artistic, and all other cultural activities in which man expresses himself. Archetypes represent the common patterns of emotional and mental behaviors. Many areas of study have been influenced by Jung's work. For example, the study of literature, art, music, anthropology, which is the study of human societies and cultures and their development, also called cultural anthropology and social anthropology. Sinology, which is the study of Chinese language, history, customs, and politics, and natural sciences. These all have their own laws of activity and cannot be rationally explained, but affected by archetypes, which appear as agents of acts of creation and time, suggesting the random phenomena may occur when vital needs occur. Most promising field for future studies is microphysics and concepts, the basics of physics, space, time, matter, energy, continuum, or field, particle, etc., where ideas of Greek philosophers expressed in abstract mathematical forms. The terms. This was also taught in the mystery systems of Egypt, or Kemet. This is noted in the Kabbalah. If you haven't checked out that video that I've done, I suggest you check that out. It'll help plug and fill many holes that is left from this book here, as far as meaning of certain things, like spirit. Archetypical ideas do not necessarily express objective facts, but come from innate mental tendencies in man that cause a need to find rational explanation between various muter or inner facts he must deal with. When examining nature in the universe, man encounters himself. Modern microphysics discovered that light can be viewed as a wave and particle, but not at the same time. However, in microphysics, the observer influences the experiment in a way that cannot be measured or eliminated. Jung saw the relationship between the conscious and unconscious mind forms complementary pairs of opposites. Each enlargement of the observer's consciousness causes the dream interpretation has an immeasurable repercussion and influence on the unconscious. What the unconscious is, we do not know, just as matter. But this is explained in the Kabbalion, as I noted to earlier. Some call archetypes primary possibilities of psychic reactions, as they can appear any way. They are only tendencies. Conscious representations are sometimes ordered before they are conscious to us. Microphysics and psychology parallel with Jung's concepts of meaning by not looking for causal determination but natural relatedness. Jung felt that we should learn more about interrelation of the two before getting into abstract speculations. He also felt mathematics would be the best area of study for psychology adaptation. Mathematicians discovered that our representations are ordered before we become aware of them. Numbers serve conscious everyday measuring and counting operations. They have been only for reading the meaning of ancient forms of divination like astrology, numerology, geomancy, etc., where all are based on arithmetical computation, and all investigated by Jung in terms of the theory of synchronicity. From a psychological view, natural numbers are archetypical representations. They are also adherent to outer objects, yet they are a part of our mental makeup. Abstract concepts we can study without looking at outer objects. So numbers appear to be a tangible connection between matter and the psyche. Jung's ideas are beginning to a new outlook that will continue to evolve and expand. If you are encouraged to seek more information on the unconscious, the purpose of this book has been fulfilled. So Islam, peace. That is the conclusion of the breakdown. I will make the slides available, and I will make my script available as well. You can get those on the website. I would encourage everybody to like and subscribe if you got any value from this. I will be doing more videos along these lines to help share what I've learned along my path to help me discover things about myself. Again, I hope you got some value from this. And until the next video, peace.